Hey guys, welcome to the second part of the lecture. We're going to continue where we left off. I believe we're on vacuoles. So, vacuoles in the cell, mostly you see vacuoles in plant cells, but they do occur in animal cells. Plant cells have a more dominant vacuole though, because it's much larger than an animal vacuole because it stores so much water for the plant. So these are membrane-bound structures with various functions depending on the cell type. So there's a central vacuole, again, like I mentioned, that in plant cells, very large, very obvious, stores a lot of water. Some protists that you'll see later in the year will have what is called a contractile vacuole, where they suck in a lot of water and then spit it out to try to move. And then finally, we as animals in other cells have vacuoles for storage, like for food and other materials that the cell might need. All right, next organelle is the mitochondria. So sometimes it's referred to as the mitochondrion if it's singular. They both mean the same thing. So mitochondria are basically the organelle that makes energy using sugars. So it makes this cell energy in the form of what's called ATP. They make ATP for the cell, which is energy. It's present in all eukaryotic cells. It contains an enzyme for transferring the energy from within the molecules, macromolecules like sugar, to ATP. So basically able to take sugar in and make ATP, which is cell energy. And again, it's found in all types of eukaryotic cells. Both plant and animals can do this. Further investigation of the mitochondria tells us that it has two membranes, a smooth outer membrane and a folded inner membrane. Those folds within the membrane are called cristae. And then the space within the inner membrane is called the matrix. And then the inner membrane space is located between the two membranes. I'll show you a picture. Just make sure to write this down. All right. And they also, kind of unique, is that they contain their own DNA. It's a unique set of DNA compared to the rest of the cell. So here we go. Here's what a kind of mitochondria looks like. Looks like almost a kidney bean. Here are the two membranes, as you can see. This would be inside the inner membrane, which is called the matrix. Cristae are these folds. You see these folds here, how it folds in like this. Here's another one that folds in. Here's another one that folds in. Those are referred to as cristae. And then the inner membrane space, like I mentioned before, that's this space outside the inner membrane. All right, chloroplasts. Chloroplasts are kind of similar to mitochondria, but they're also very different. So chloroplasts are organelles that occur primarily in plants, but they also occur in some other eukaryotes, but they never occur in animal cells. So that's one of the main differences between plant and animal cells, is that plants have chloroplasts, animals do not. They contain this pigment called chlorophyll, and they use the chlorophyll and they use sun's energy to perform a process called photosynthesis. Photosynthesis takes carbon dioxide that is in the air and makes sugar out of it. Chloroplasts, just like the mitochondria, are surrounded by two membranes. Thylakoids are the membrane sacs within the inner membrane. I'll show you a picture of those. And then grana are a stack of thylakoids. So if you look at here, here's a chloroplast. Each one of these folds here, if you look at them, each one of those is a thylakoid. Now a stack is called a grana. And then the space, you should also write this down, the space, empty space in the chloroplast is called the stroma. So you should know what a thylakoid is, a granum, and then the stroma. Almost done. The cytoskeleton is the last thing we'll kind of cover. It's very similar to the skeleton of your body. The cytoskeleton is kind of this network of protein fibers that are found in all eukaryotic cells, and what they do is they basically support the shape of the cell, and they make sure they keep the organelles in fixed locations, and they also help to move materials within the cell. So kind of just like your bones, if you didn't have bones, you'd be this kind of this pile of tissue. The bones give you shape, and also they help keep your organs in fixed locations. And then for the cytoskeleton, also helps move materials within the cell. They kind of provide a highway, if you will, for materials to go in and out of cells. The way that kind of materials move along the cytoskeleton to get to places where they need to go. So here's kind of a picture of that. You have different types of cytoskeleton. You guys don't need to know these names, but you do have different types, and you can kind of see how it's this whole network of different fibers that are used to give the cell its shape. Kind of cool. And then outside of the cell, like extracellular structures, cell walls is something you definitely want to write down. All plants, fungi, and then some protists have cell walls surrounding their cell membrane. So again, this is outside the cell membrane. Cell walls are present in fungi, some protists, and plants, like I stated before. It's made of a carbohydrate present in the cell wall, depending on the cell type. So you guys need to know what type of carbohydrate is in each cell type. So plants and protists have this sugar, this carbohydrate called cellulose, that is the component that makes up the cell wall. So cell walls of plants are made out of cellulose. And then fungi cell walls are made of this sugar called chitin. Not chitin, chitin. And this is actually the same material that crab shells are made out of, or insect shells. Their exoskeletons of insects are made of chitin. Lobster shells are also made of chitin. So it's a very tough material, as you can imagine. So here's a nice little picture to help kind of show the differences. You will need to identify differences between plant and animal, and then differences between prokaryote and eukaryote cells. That is definitely something that will be either on your next quiz or on your next test. So you should definitely be aware of the differences between prokaryotes and then eukaryotic cells, and then the differences between plant and animal cells. That's it, guys. Thank you so much. Have a great day.